Okay, welcome back to another video on how to adjust the design and some of the aspects of your sports card. To begin, obviously we need to open up our project file. Now, sometimes if you're starting new, you want to open up GIMP, the program on its own. However, at this point you should already have a project file from Sports Card Video 1 and Sports Card Video 2. So, we're going to open up our project file. Now, something I want to point out is that a .xcf file is always a GIMP file. Now, let's pause for one moment and just talk about what that really means. To begin, let's click on our Finder face. Now, you'll see your Finder face down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Finder face. That brings up our Finder window, right here, our Finder window. Now, within our Finder window, we see all of these files, okay? Your sports card, which should be your last name sports card, should be located towards the top. It might even be this file right here towards the top. Ours, however, or mine I should say, is located right here because I've done a few things since then. Now, you want to find your last name sports card .xcf, okay? Do you see that? So it's labeled your last name sports card .xcf. Now, like it says in the directions, a .xcf file is always a GIMP project file, okay? Project file. Now, that is the type of file that we want to open up. Decola sports card. Open it right up. Now, GIMP is loading. All right, there it is. GIMP 2.8. All right, there have been so many different styles of GIMPs, even from last year to this year. Loading, loading, loading. Okay. All right. Now, when GIMP opens, we'll see that we have our person and we have our background, okay? Now, if we see in our Layers tab, we have our Layers tab and our History tab, but in our Layers tab, we have this layer called File _001. Why don't we double-click on that, 1, 2, and we're going to label it, why don't we just call it our first name? So I'm going to label mine Andrew, okay? Here we have our Andrew file. Now, that is in this one right here. If you see, I'm clicking on this eyeball, hide, show, okay? Now, it's important to keep things organized, of course. Now, here we have our, this is our background photo, so I'm going to double-click on this and label this background photo. And here we have below that a layer called background. Now, this opens up with every GIMP file, no matter what. We're just going to leave this here for now and not touch it. So we have our person file, our person layer, our person layer labeled our first name. We have our background photo, and then we have just the blank background layer, which we're just going to forget about for now. Okay, so now looking back at the directions, we want to think about what we want in our photo. Now, if you recall, and as you can see, I'm on a tennis court. And why don't I actually move that for now so it's straighter. Okay. I am on a tennis court. So in my hand right here, I want to have a tennis racket, okay? I want to have a tennis racket. So I need to make certain changes to my photo in order to include my eventual tennis racket, okay? If we see, and I'm going to grab the zoom tool right here, if we look at my hand, and of course I still have the green around it, which I'm going to get rid of later. If I want a tennis racket right here, I need to move my thumb so that it wraps over the tennis racket. If I'm going to have a tennis racket in the palm of my hand, I need to make sure that my thumb is prepped and ready to go to wrap over the tennis racket, as if I'm holding it in real life. So if we go down here, I'm going to zoom back out, back to 100%. So if I click on these arrows, back to 100%. Okay, now, we need to select a portion of my hand, for me it's the thumb, that might be in the way of the accessory. So why don't we zoom back in, actually, so we can see what we're working on. The lasso tool, it suggests right here, the lasso tool is in your top row, right between the circle and our good old friend, the magic wand. So if we click on the lasso tool, all we want to do is first, in order to get used to using it, we're going to click and drag a circle. And then, there we go, okay? Now, let's hit Command-Shift-A to undo that. The lasso tool, if this is your first time using the lasso tool, you need to click and drag as if you're tracing on paper. Click and drag as if you're tracing on paper. Now, we're obviously just practicing with the circle now. So once we go, we go, we go, we go. If we go back to the original point, which is right above where I am right now, we see a circle pop up, and then that lets us know that we're about to finish. If we go into that circle and we let go, we'll see that we have a selection circle right here. So everything we do is only going to happen in this circle right now. Let's hit Command-Shift-A to get rid of that circle, and let us really select what we want to select, this thumb, okay? And again, yours might be a little different. You might be doing something on your shoes, you might be doing something on your arms, or maybe a hat for your head. I'm, of course, doing it here. And of course, everything that I show you here, these 4 steps will also apply to whatever you're doing. All right, so we have our lasso tool. Let us be very slow and careful. We click. Oh, let me try that again. We click, and we simply drag as if we're drawing on paper. Okay, if you notice, I'm tracing my thumb. Now, I'm getting really close to the end. Once the yellow circle pops up, there it is. I can let go, and I have my thumb traced specifically. Okay, now if we look at step number 3.2, or 3A2, we need to hit Command-X to cut out the selected portion. Now, we're not deleting it, we're just cutting it out to move it somewhere else. Make sure you're on the right layer. We're moving it somewhere else. Command-X. Okay. Now, it looks like it's gone forever, but it's not. It's just hidden for now, okay? It's just hidden for now. So, if we look at our next step, we already cut it. We're now pasting it back, okay? Pasting it back. If we hit Command-V to paste, you'll see that up here, we have a new layer, okay? We have a new layer called the floating selection layer. Our next step is to rename that new layer hand, or whatever is in the new layer. We can call this hand, we can call it thumb, whatever you've cut out, that's what you want to label this layer. So, if we click back to our layers tab, of course this is our layers tab right here, and we double click on our floating selection layer, we're going to label this hand, okay? I could also call it thumb, but to keep with the directions, I'm going to call it hand. Now, to confirm, I have to hit Return/Enter. Boop. There it is. Now, it's not 100% perfect, okay? You might have to use the Move tool to relocate it so that you cover all of the space. There we go. Okay, just like that. But now, as you can see, the thumb is in a different layer. It's in a different layer than the person. Floating thumb on a tennis court. Okay, wonderful. Now, let's take a look back at our directions. We need to search for our accessory image. Now, like I said before, mine is going to be a tennis racket. Now, if you're not playing tennis, of course you don't need a tennis racket. It could be a baseball bat, it could be a hat, it could be a pair of dance shoes, it could be a tightrope if you're doing, what is tightrope? I guess it could be a gymnastics setup, whatever you want, okay? That's what we're going to search for. So I'm actually going to hit Command-N so I have a new clean Google window because my directions are in this window. Let us go and type in tennis racket. Make sure you spell it right and then do a search. Images. Oh, so many options. So many options. Okay. Now, we don't want one that's that big. Let's see. This one is, let's see. Why don't we go, actually, we're going to type in tennis racket PNG. That's what we want. Tennis racket PNG. Okay. Now let's click on this one right here. Okay. Now the PNG. All right. So if we find the image that we want, of course it has to make sense for our sport. We need to click on the image in Google, which I just did. Brings us to this window right here. Okay. If we click it in Google, it brings us to this window right here. Now, once we have done that, we need to drag the photo to our downloads folder or our desktop. Again, I don't have a downloads folder. You might, but I do not. So I'm going to drag it right to my desktop. You see, there goes the tennis racket right to my desktop. Do not drag it right to GIMP. It will not work. Drag it to your desktop first, okay? And there we go. There's my photo right there. What is next? Oh, goodness gracious. I need to go back to my GIMP project and save. there's nothing worse than having any work in a project be lost. So you should be periodically saving anyway. Again, we're going to go back to these arrows. We're going to click on 100. We're going to hit Command S to save. If we see down here, image saved to users, Andrew DeCola, pictures, sports card, etc. And I am going to now look at my directions. I'm going to drag this photo into my GIMP canvas. Okay, so here again, here's my photo on my desktop. Yours might be in your downloads folder. I'm going to drag it right into my canvas, and voila, there it is. But goodness gracious, this is large. We're going to come back to these steps. Look right at step number 5, scale or fake scale. Of course, here, my tennis racket is quite large, so I'm going to do a real scale. I'm going to change the size. I'm going to choose my scale tool right here, which is above my A. Click. And then, would you look at this? Making it smaller. Why is this not working? Let's see. Zoom out. I'm going to zoom out real quick to see what we got going here. All right. Drag on the corners. And that's about right. Okay. Scale. Now, I'm going to use my Move tool right here to adjust the location of my accessory image. And the Move tool is these 4 arrows, right diagonal from your Scale tool. Okay, I'm going to click right there. And would you look at that? It's almost right in my hand. Number 7, with the Rotate tool, I am going to use my Rotate tool. That way it is... I'm going to use my Rotate tool. That way it is about... There it is, Rotate tool. About the right direction, so it looks like it's really sitting in my hand. Move it again. Okay, now here is where we need to go back a few steps. If I zoom in, of course I chose the magnifying glass. Here is why we did what we did earlier. Okay, if you notice, the handle of the tennis racket is in front of my thumb. It does not really look like I'm holding it. Okay, if we look at step 4F, reorder layers, just like with the green screen guy office picture, I'm going to take this tennis racket. I'm actually going to relabel it. Tennis R for racket, and I'm going to drag this tennis racket layer right below the hand layer. If you recall, the hand layer should include only our thumb, and if I do that, ladies and gents, you can see that my thumb is now in front of the handle. If we zoom out, I'm going to go back to 100%, it looks much more like I am holding that racket, okay? I'm holding that racket. Now, you could rotate it a little bit more to get the angle right. That's up to you. But now let's look at our next step, Command S to save our work. It is excruciatingly important. So important. I can't really say how many adjectives. It's that important. Hit Command S after every time that you do a big step. And if you notice, I just hit Command S. It says image saved once again. And ladies and gents, that is the last step in this project. Last step in this video. There's so many more steps in the project. I still haven't erased my green. I'm floating in midair, so I should probably move myself later on. But ladies and gents, now, maybe get yourself you can use a headband and change the clothes you're wearing, whatever you'd like. But it's all these same steps, ladies and gents. Thank you so much. I'm going to save again. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.